when I first kind of came on the scene, like a bull in a china shop, it was very egotistical. You know, I'd be getting like sent home from training for fighting or just blowing up, you know, and it's just all because I just wanted attention. Obviously, I'm just trying to prove a point that I'm not this time bomb, but in the same sense, subconsciously, I kind of liked it. I was like, what's happened? And they were like, you've been knocked out. I was like, no. They were like, I was like, what? I was like, how were the scrums? How were the scrums? And they were like, well, they're not going well now.
Yeah, not great.
And I was like, did I get any scrums? And they were like, no. I was like, no. I was like, you're joking. Played for England, got on the Lions tour, played 3 tests, and I've had like 10 caps for England. I was like, I'm the man.
Easy.
Yeah, and then I think Eddie kind of saw that, and he was like, mate, you're not in the squad, mate, you know? Because it is quite embarrassing. Like, you kind of, I think my odds were like 1 to 5 on to make the squad, you know what I mean?
No, you are.
And it was like,
that, yeah.
and it was like, your ego takes a big hit, you know?
On this Christmas special of Rugby Roots, I am joined by England international and British and Irish Lion, Kyle Sinckler. Kyle opens up deeply on his early years as a player in what is an incredibly honest reflection of what he got wrong and right in the past. We chat through Warren Gatland's infamous hothead comments, being knocked out in the World Cup final, and how his own ego was once his greatest enemy. Enjoy.
Sinks,
Jim.
we are in Bristol. Does it feel
cool.
a long way from home, or is this home for you now?
I don't know. I feel like it is home, yeah. I feel like it is home. I've been here for a while now. I think it's like my 3rd year. But like the people have been like so welcoming to me. So, and like if you look around, you know, the views and the nature, and just being here does feel, you know, like I'm at home. But then you'd ask me that 4 or 5 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, South London, I'm a Londoner all the way through. So it's a bit of a strange one. But right now, it does feel like home, yes.
Yeah, because Bristol is a beautiful city,
yep,
as we know.
Yep.
But South London, or London, is London.
The concrete jungle,
It is very
yeah,
different. And
yeah.
I know that you are into the outdoors, and we can talk about your chickens and all these things, but it is like a long way from home, from where you kind of grew up and what you know.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think it just comes with that maturation process. You know, when I was 19, 18, 20, I was a completely different person to, well, I'm 29 now, getting old. And I think your perspective on life and things change. So for me, you know, the quality of, I guess, nature in terms of the air that you breathe each day, being close to the training ground is obviously very important to me. The people, that was one of my biggest things when I first moved down to Bristol. It kind of took me back a little bit, because you know what it's like in London when you're like walking around, everyone's in the hustle and bustle, get out of my way, I've got to get to A to B, whereas in Bristol people would stop and be like, oh, how are you? You know, I've got a little dog. He's like, how's the dog? It's a good place and been a blessing.
Well, I'll be honest, it's the first place that I've seen rain with no clouds.
There's
actually no clouds and there's a bit of rain. So maybe as soon as you said nature, that was the flip of the finger. Yeah. So who's got the chickens today? I mean, chickens don't need looking after.
No, they
don't.
don't. So
you've got chickens.
Yeah, so I'll get
How many?
I've got 6 now.
6?
I've got 2 new chickens. I'd say for the last 2 weeks, trying to integrate them in. Jim, I'm telling you, it is brutal, mate.
Primal though, aren't they?
Brutal. The pecking order is for real, genuine. Like it is no joke. It's been savage, but you kind of just have to let it play out. So I've got 6 chickens. You just before you know, as soon as you wake up, let them out, put their food out, change their water, and just kind of let them get on with it, you know. So, but yeah, 6 eggs a day, can't complain.
You get 6, is that one each or not?
One each, yeah, one each,
All
yeah.
right.
A few double yolkers as well.
Yeah, nice.
But no, enjoyed it, man, enjoyed it.
One of the things I've picked up and following your career,
both
when I played, but naturally when I finished and I'm in the media and you're watching certain players, you're watching characteristics, and you make judgment calls on things, and some are right, some are wrong, some change and evolve over time. But one thing I've picked up with you is, one, emotionally you wear your heart on your sleeve. Love it. I used to do that. Something that I wasn't, and I probably am more so now, and probably brought me to this point, is you are a deep thinker. It's something that almost is like defining you a little bit now as a man.
I'd say so, I'd say so, yeah. I would say, I think it's just the maturation process, Jim. Like when I first kind of came on the scene, it's like a bull in a china shop. It was very egotistical. I just wanted everyone talking about me. I remember when I was at Quinn's, coming through. I was like 18 years old, and it was like my first training session. And obviously you got the likes of like Nick Easter, Nick Evans, Jordan Turner-Hall, Danny Kerr, Hugo Monnier, Tommy Williams, Ollie Cohn, Matt Kearns. Remember Matt Kearns?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
proper good pro, man. I got a lot of respect for Kearnsy, man. But these guys who I know, because obviously I'm on the website looking at their bios, I know every player, where they're from, like how many appearances they've got, and I'm like, obviously they don't know me, but I'm just like, by hook or by crook, by the end of this training session, whether it's good or bad, I want these people talking about me. I want them to be like, who the hell is this kid, you know? And it was just like very egotistical when I look back on it now, because it was very selfish. I wanted, you know, to be the talk of the town, but you could ask those guys now. For any time it was a training session, it's boom, boom. I'm just going all out. You know, looking back at it now, because I'm in a position, obviously, like playing week in and week out, and you know what it's like when you're training in the week, you just want to get to the game feeling good. So you got guys there like Tom Guest and Minty, Nick Easter, like they'll like come up to me before training, like, Sinks, leave me alone today. You know? And I'd be like, yeah, I won't touch you. But it was just, I just wanted, no matter what, I wanted the coaches after the training session to be like, fuck, you know, that Sinckler, you know, like whether it was good or bad, I just wanted to be kind of in their thoughts at all times. And then as you get older, obviously I came to the realization that, one, that's not sustainable, and two, it was from an egotistical point of view of me being like this angry kind of dude who like was always talk of the town, but at the end of the day it was very detrimental to my team.
Emotionally draining.
Yeah, mate, I'd be absolutely knackered. I remember I was playing a game for Quinn's. I think we were playing Sale, and Wayne Barnes was ref, and I got yellow carded, and I think I like slapped Faf on the chest or something stupid. But like, I promise you, all week I was like, because obviously, you know, Faf's a quality player. And like, he was one of the guys we had to target in defence, because obviously if he gets run in, it's hard to defend around that like bodyguard, because you might bite in. And so all week I'd be like, get to Faf, I've got to get to Faf. In training, I'm like calling out the nines, like, get to Faf. I remember we had this old nine, I think he's still playing now, his name's Tito Tiboldi, plays now and then for Italy, but this Italian dude. Like the you know, they're like Europeans, like very chilled out, relaxed, like. And in training, I'd be like recreating, like, he's Faf, like, get to Faf. And I'd be like diving on him, like, Kyle, what are you doing? Leave me alone, man. And I'd be like, but like, it exhausted myself in the week. I'd be in the sauna, like, I'm gonna get to Faf. Played, I think it was Sale Friday night or Saturday, BT game. I think I was on for like 20 minutes. All the fuss, we didn't get to Faf. Like, it was absolutely unbelievable. And I was just frustrated. I think he's quite a chirpy kind of character, gets under your skin, and I think let's hit him on the chest. It was like, yellow card, gone. We lost the game probably because I got simbined, you know, and then obviously after the aftermath of that is like, ill discipline, a liability, gives away too many penalties, etc., and it's just like, I can't keep continuing, I guess, my life like this. And you kind of have to do a lot of soul searching. It's like, why am I like this? Why do I want attention like this? Like, why do I not want the attention for the good stuff? Why do I not just want to do my job for the team, kind of thing, you know? And I think that just takes time, takes a lot of soul searching. And I'd say it takes courage as well, because a lot of people probably won't be willing to kind of recreate themselves and change and look at themselves critically and try to change for the betterment of themselves, but obviously for the team, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that, mate, I can. There won't be a huge amount that we can level on. You're a completely different player to me, but that's what I built my career on.
Yeah.
Going around grabbing people, being angry and just being an idiot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
And then it becomes a tag, it becomes a label, it probably becomes the hardest one to shake off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
People make a judgment call on just like you as a person,
yeah.
Even though
but as you know, on a rugby field, like, everyone's so different off and on the rugby field, you know. I remember, like, when I first came on the scene, everyone was like, "Man, I thought you were a prick." But mate, you're an absolute legend, you know. Like, mate, I really like you. You're a good guy. And it's like, obviously you understand, you know. So it's like trying to get the balance right in terms of being aggressive, obviously, but not being like egotistical and trying to be like, it's all about me. You know, I'm this angry guy. When in actual fact, I'm not. I'm pretty chilled. I'm not angry, you know? When I'm angry, that's when I'm not in alignment. That's when I'm like, something's not right, you know? Because then I'm really angry. But it's like, actually, that's just a telltale sign for me now. It's like, okay, if I'm angry, like that Newcastle game 2 weeks ago, when I kind of had that outburst, you know, that's me angry. Obviously, I didn't. Awful game. Like, I didn't hold my hands up. It wasn't the best game I've ever played. Nowhere near. But it's because obviously I'm trying too hard. I'm trying trying to, you know, do my thing and play a good game, but you're just trying too hard. So it's like, I know I'm angry because things are not going right. Okay, cool. Quickly analyse that, put some things right, and just keep going, you know?
Right, Kyle, you mentioned anger.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's been bandied about.
Yeah, you saw the podcast a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I did.
Anger.
Yeah, you're talking about it.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the next space that you're in. So it's clearly something that you're fully aware of,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And something, again, outside perspective, social media, online, people clipping up different things.
Yeah.
But it is part of who you are.
Yeah, of course.
And it is deep rooted in you, which is great. But like, when you reflect on some of the things and that's happened in your career, like, how do you view that side of yourself?
I kind of laugh at it now. So a little bit of, I guess, embarrassment at times, because it was so kind of like egotistical in a way. Like, I would just do things just to get attention, like a child, you know. And we were speaking off camera in terms of like my time at Quinn's, working under like Wig, Graham Roundtree, and like you know Wig, like takes no shit.
He's old school.
Yeah, like proper old school. And obviously at the time when I was working with him, like, mate, he had my back 150 million%, you know? Like, he was a big reason why I got selected for the 2017 Lions, because obviously he was the Quinn's coach at the time. But like, mate, some of the bust-ups me and him would have, and I like reflect on it now, and I'm like, what gave me the right to speak to someone like Graham Roundtree, like, you know, what he's achieved in the game, like premierships. Obviously, I know he didn't go on the 2003 World Cup team, but Lions, however many England caps, regarded as like, in his time, one of the best props. You know, obviously I was a sponge and I was like always wanting to learn and worked hard, but that egotistical side of me was like, you know, I'm the man, I can do what I want kind of thing, you know. And like, looking back on it now, and I'm sure when he looks back on it, he would laugh. And like, mate, I actually love the guy. He's an absolute legend. Spoke to him when he got the Munster job, like, fully well deserved. But stuff like that and altercations I've had with people kind of behind the scenes who have really backed me.
When you say altercations, like you
not
mentioned...
like your fist fight, but like, you know, it's got pretty, you know, ask the guys. There's been times with guys like, what are you doing? You know, I'll be getting like sent home from training for fighting or just blowing up, you know, and it's just all because I just wanted attention. But kind of in the critical analysis in terms of like finding out why that was, a lot of it came back to me not growing up without a father, and then I've said this before in other interviews, but putting, you know, coaches, other like males in my life is it in that kind of like father figure role, like subconsciously, and not kind of realizing it. And obviously a coach is like, Carl, you're going to get dropped. They're going to say certain things to fire you up. So it's like, for me, if I kind of subconsciously see this guy as a dad and he drops me or says something to me that I don't like, then that's where I'll be like, oh my God, I'm getting betrayed again. You know, he's going to leave me kind of thing.
Yeah,
and I'll just be angry. But it's like, you kind of come to the realization, it's like, you don't need that. Like, you can become your own dad. You can, you know, be a good role model for yourself. But I use that kind of like not growing up with a dad and all that stuff as just like an identity, you know. And it's easy for me to, at the time, for me to just lash out and be angry and get all the attention, because attention is attention at the end of the day, whether it's good or bad. You know, I'm reading a book at the moment, I think it's like the 48 Laws to Power. Rule number 1, court attention at all costs. And you can see people like that who just say certain things just to get attention, want to be in the spotlight, and that's what I was like. I just wanted to, good or bad, I want people to be talking about me, you know, whether it's the coaches, whether it's the players, whether it's the media. But like, as we kind of discussed off camera, like, it's not sustainable. You know, you're eventually going to burn out, and what goes up must come down. So that's kind of where I found myself, probably 2016, 2017, around that sort of time. Probably leading into the World Cup in 2019. So, you know, you kind of have to evolve, mature, grow up, you know. So.
But it's interesting because people will be watching this and they'll be watching you play for England, playing for the Lions, professional, doing what you do. They'll be watching me stood here chatting to you, interviewing about it. But I think the void of a dad and a male figure is something that I lacked in my life as well. I don't think it can be. It can be an excuse. I don't think it can be not an excuse. I think people watching this will find that space really interesting because.
But the way I try to view that, Jim, is like, that's a blessing, because there's no such thing as like, everything happens for a reason. So the reason I didn't have my dad around was because it gave me that drive. Like if I didn't have that drive, like in terms of like when I was growing up, everyone would be going out, everyone would be doing God knows what, but it's like, no, I've got rugby training the next day. I'd have to get the bus to Crystal Palace twice a week to do my extra gym sessions, those sort of things. If I didn't have that drive, I wouldn't be where I was now. Like I'd be treating my Sunday game at Battersea Ironside or London Scottish. That was my Twickenham, you know? I was like, I'm gonna prove him wrong, I'm gonna do all these things. And because I did that, I got scouted by Colin Osborne just by chance because he was watching his son and Quinn didn't have a game that weekend, you know? And it's like, now I look back on it and reflect, it is a blessing, you know? But obviously the way I used to look at it was like, woe is me, like a martyr, you know? Woe is me, you know, no one likes me, my dad betrayed me, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, actually, no, he did me a favor. You know, probably what I was at that point in my career was, I'd give you a miracle moment. I could give you like a big hit, a great no-look tip or a good run, but mate, I would do nothing the whole game. I'll just be around like berating the referees, giving away penalties, wanting to be seen on the camera, but actually my whole game, the holistic approach to my game was awful. Like genuinely, I feel, I look it back on it now, like my tackle completion would probably be awful, my scrum completion wouldn't be great, my attack in terms of my understanding of the game and setting things up was not good. It was just all about me. Whereas now I feel like I do a lot of the dirty work, which was something I never used to do, you know? And it's getting obviously that balance right because you want to obviously bring your X factor to the team, but also it's like, if a ruck needs to get hit, I need to hit that ruck. If I need to do a tough carry into a brick wall, I need to do that. You know, I need to scrum. You know, that was something that I've always used to struggle with, whereas now it's probably one of my biggest strengths, if not my main strength now, because I've worked along with the coaches, you know, your Adam Joneses, your Mark Irishes, your Neil Hatleys, your Matt Proudfoots, who, you know, very lucky, but you're working with those day in and day out, just trying to, I guess, perfect your craft. So I feel back then I was, if I'm being honest, a terrible rugby player, but I could give you a miracle moment that you could put on a clip on Instagram or Twitter and you'd be like, oh, Sinckler's on fire. But it's like, did you see what I did for the rest of the game? Like, I did nothing. I was just walking around. But it's just like understanding what you want to achieve and kind of your legacy, you know? And then there was an altercation on the sideline and it's like, I've just flown in and like, I knew the cameras are there, I just want attention. It kind of took me back a little bit, like I was like, what? I was just kind of shocked, you know?
Which bit?
Just in terms of just him saying that and kind of singling me out. If I'm being honest, I thought I was kind of the big man on campus a little bit in terms of, because I did have a pretty good World Cup. England were very successful. I was out of contract, so it's like, here we go. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, things that Quinn's kind of didn't materialise.
So we're going to jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Because of what we've just spoken about around the relationships with some of the coaches.
Yeah.
And that comment, it is old ground. The famous comment from Warren Gatland.
Oh, the time bomb. Yeah.
The way that he said it.
Yeah.
Emotionally, he can be
a
time bomb.
Okay,
it was sensationalised by saying, you know, you're a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
But for him to say something like that, a coach that brought you on the lines.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know what I mean? But a guy that I'm sure you respect, like we all do.
Yeah, massively. Yeah.
How was that when you saw it?
I don't actually remember seeing it. I try to not like look at things like that because especially when you're in like camp and in you know, in the thick of it, you don't really want to read too many articles because you know it's like when you're playing international rugby, it's so much more intense. And I remember, I think it was Eddie came up to me after training. He was like, mate, you seen, like, he was like basically just saying like, have you seen this? Like, mate, I've got your back. Like, do your thing, you know. And I was like, it kind of took me back a little bit. It took me back. Like, I was like, what? I was just kind of shocked, you know.
Which bit?
Just in terms of just him saying that and kind of singling me out. And obviously we had the Lions tour a few years ago. Obviously he picked me as like a, what do they call it? Like a bolter. Yeah, like a bolter and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, what is going on? But that was a classic example of the first, I'd say, 50 minutes. Probably one of the best games I've ever played. Mate, I was fired right up. I was like, I'm gonna show him. I think I had like 10 tackles in like 10 minutes or something like that. I remember me, courts, like everyone was just on it, you know? Like, I remember I got Big Al, a nice shot on Big Al. The ultimate, like, just puppet master, you know? Like, got an early shot on him. You know, it was just like one of the most physical games I've played in. But you just can't sustain it. And then obviously I'm just trying to prove a point that I'm not this time bomb, but in the same sense, subconsciously, I kind of liked it, you know, because the attention's all on me. And at the end of the day, attention is power. And then it got to the point where I gave away like a silly penalty against, I think it's Gareth Anscombe, chipped, and I like just being lazy. And then
When you did that,
yeah,
when you reached Anscombe,
yeah,
were you like, fuck?
No, I was so out of touch at that point in my life. I was like, I haven't done anything. Like genuinely, I haven't done anything wrong, you know? And then I think it was a tackle with Al, and then he like tried to present the ball under my hand around his neck. And then there was an altercation on the sideline, and it's like I've just flown in, and like I knew the cameras are there. I just want attention, you know. And it just got to that point where I guess that it was a blessing looking back on it now. But mate, talk about online abuse. Jesus Christ, mate, that
Straight
was
after?
crazy. Yeah, that was the heat. I've never felt like I've let someone, like in terms of obviously your country. Like, because I think we were playing really well, and then we had the Scotland game after, but our heads were kind of done. Like that game was like the game, you know, to set up the Grand Slam, and I basically messed it up. And I let Eddie down, you know? Like Eddie's been a big part of my career, but also my life. Like he took me on a tour in 2016 when I wasn't even starting for Quinn's, like gave me a taste of it, always kind of had my back, and I'll never forget after that game, I was like sat on the coach, and subconsciously I probably was looking for him to father me, because like, you know, the coaches would sit like really at the front of the bus and the players would all kind of sit at the back. And I'd normally never sit at the front, but I sat at the front, and like it was just me and him there, and he was like, mate, I've got your back. He was like, don't stress. He was like, you're going to be a great player. Got your back.
Well, that's lovely.
Yeah, you know, and
He's very emotionally aware.
Yeah,
of
and I
Eddie
don't
Jones.
think people see kind of that side of him. Like he's very obviously, he is firm. You know, he is very direct. He is a tough taskmaster, but like, he's also very, you know, like a good man. Yeah, that kind of situation kind of was the catalyst for me to change. Obviously at the time it was pretty dark, but you know, you kind of need that friction to grow. And I think that was one of the points where in my life I was like, I have to change. Like I can't keep doing this, you know. So
yeah, and Eddie Jones seemed to back you, and without speaking forward, I think you just answered the question. It seemed like a turning point because your career just went in that trajectory to the point where, if we fast forward to the World Cup final, where you're probably playing the best rugby of your life, it seemed like you were in a good spot. Yeah, you clearly were. Yeah. What about that knockout in the final? I mean,
you probably know more about it than me.
Well, you know,
all
I
this
remember
concussion
watching
stuff.
it.
Jesus,
I know,
I was
but
like,
it was like when it happened, it was like it's done. And on the biggest stage, the
I
biggest
know,
day
I know,
of your life,
I
and
know.
it is one of them things.
I know, man. I know. What can you do? It's like one of them ones where, you know, it's like you work all your life as a kid to get to that moment, and then it's like I can't really even remember it, to be honest. I remember like the anthems, and I remember I think Pollard kicked to 3 points. I think Courtney gave away a penalty or something like that. Yeah. And then it was like kick off, and I just remember chasing the kick, and then it was like next minute I was like, it was a really surreal moment. I kind of came back into my body, and I was in like the doctor's room, and I was watching the game on telly. Like the game was on the TV, and I was like, what is going on? I was like, what's happened? And they were like, you've been knocked out. I was like, no. And then like Lou De Jager came in. I think he dislocated his shoulder. And I was just like, what's happened? And they were like, I was like, how were the scrums? How were the scrums? And they were like, well, they're not going well now.
Yeah, not great.
And I was like, did I get any scrums? And they were like, no. I was like, no. I was like, you're joking.
Because that's all it was.
That's it. Yeah, scrum. And like, we toured there in, was it 2018? I think we toured South Africa. And like the first kind of couple of tests, we were okay. Like the first test, we went well against them. Second test, you know, struggled. But like I kind of felt like I could. The beast is obviously like, mate, one of the best props. But like, because I'm quite short, you know. So it's like if I can just scrum like literally down here, you know, I think I've got a chance here, you know. And it was like I was planning all week what I'm gonna do. I was literally like, I felt great in terms of the plan and the prep we were doing. And I was just like, I didn't even get a chance.
It's life-changing as well. As you think about how, and again, hindsight's great, and whatever happened, happened. It never materialised that you won the World Cup. But that's life-changing shit. And we've had enough of the 2003 lads.
Oh, mate,
Like they were praying that you didn't win. Everyone else was praying that you won.
For real.
You know.
But it's like, it's like I can be, the way I kind of afterwards, it is pretty dark. I was concussed, kind of couldn't really remember too much, and obviously you kind of feel sorry for yourself. You're like, oh, poor me, why me, kind of thing. And then it's like, okay, how am I gonna kick on now? You know, it's like, do I feel sorry for myself, or do I want to use this now as motivation for the World Cup in 2023 and go that one step further? And it's like, for me, that's the way I wanted to use it. It's like, okay, I came this close, you know? And it's like, so when I do feel tired and I do feel kind of like backs against the wall stuff, and the pressure's on, it's like, it's kind of using that kind of old mindset in terms of how my anger, but channeling it in the right direction, you know, as opposed to like lashing out. And don't get me wrong, I'm gonna make mistakes. You know, I made a mistake bloody 2 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? But it's like having the awareness to understand, okay, why did I do that? Okay, cool, we move forward. It's like every day I'm trying to build momentum to hopefully be in that 2023 World Cup winning squad. You know, like that's obviously the big aim, but it's about doing the right things day in and day out. It's like you don't roll out of bed and play in a World Cup final. It's like years and years and years of refining your craft and doing the right thing and building momentum, making sure you're peaking for those obviously big games, and also make sure you're building momentum for your club and you're looking after your body, not doing too much. Sorry, it's magpie. I've got a thing with magpies.
Where is it?
Yes, one for sorrow, so you cancel it out.
2 for joy.
Yeah, 2 for joy.
Just one, was it?
Yeah, just one. So it's like about just building that like momentum every day, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm just head down, focused, trying to just put my best foot forward on the field week in and week out. You know what it's like in the Premiership. It's hard graft, mate. Hard graft. So it's just about, you know, just putting my best foot forward on the field every week.
Right, so after the World Cup 2019, South Africa final, you don't win. I know we're on the cusp of another World Cup, but naturally you look on the calendar, right? You see the Lions going down to South Africa, world champions. How much of that was on your mind? And then we lead up to the emotion, which went viral. But it's important to build that up. Like, was that an important opportunity and thing in the calendar that you were desperate to be a part of?
Yeah, 100%. Like, you kind of always look ahead and like, okay, 2 years' time, that's where the Lions tour is. You obviously want to be a part of that. You're playing international rugby. You know, you want to kind of be involved or in the conversation in terms of selection. My mindset then, from what I remember, was more, I was in quite a selfish space, to be honest, because I did have a good World Cup, but I was out of contract at Quinn's, and if I'm being honest, I thought I was kind of the big man on campus a little bit in terms of, because I did have a pretty good World Cup. England were very successful. I was out of contract, so it's like, here we go. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, things at Quinn's kind of didn't materialise, and there was a little bit of a bad blood. Which actually you mentioned, you know, we're speaking about off camera, Guzzy, a bit of bad blood between me and him. And we actually had a conversation, I think it was during the Six Nations. I, you know, randomly I called him, and I just felt like for some reason I just felt in my gut like I have to, you know, repair that relationship, because we really got on really well. And it was like, you know what it's like in rugby and in business, you know, they're going to want to get you for the cheapest, you want them, you know, the most for your value. And like that whole situation probably I have a few regrets in terms of how that played out.
I get the feeling
you
didn't want to leave Harlequins. Is that the case or not? And I asked that because of how the game has gone now financially, salary caps. Naturally, you go to a World Cup, and what happened in the final happened. But I get the impression, tell me if I'm wrong, that you didn't necessarily want to leave Quinn's. It was almost like, because you were now the cornerstone of the team.
I wouldn't say, I don't know, because in my mind, I had no choice. I had to leave. I had to evolve. You know, like it was more than a rugby decision. Like the quality of life, like being in a new experience, being in a new city, a new challenge, a new system in terms of rugby. Like I've learnt things here at Bristol that I think didn't even really exist in terms of the way Bristol attack and like the way they do things. You know, it was like, for me, I didn't want to be kind of not like having regrets, but just being, you know, one of them players, oh, I wish I kind of took that opportunity. It was like the opportunity was there. I sat down with Pat, and I believed in the vision. And it was like he backs me. Not saying Quinn's didn't, but it was like, you know what it gets like in terms of when you're negotiating a contract. It gets quite hairy at times. And you know, we kind of reached a stalemate at the time with Quinn's, and it just looked like, you know, there was no possibility of me kind of staying. And it was like Pat was like all in on me, and I was like, that's all I need. Yeah, that's all I needed. And it was like, that was that really. And it was like, it was more than a rugby decision for me. Like I needed to get out of my comfort zone. Like I could close my eyes, Jim, and drive to training. I could tell you exactly what the week would be at Quinn's. I know the exact game plan they was going to do. I knew everything, you know, because I've been there since I was like 12 years old, you know, and I knew everyone, and it was like, it was great, and it like shaped me to who I am now. But I just wanted a different challenge. I wanted chickens. I wanted chickens. I wanted to be in this, like, you know, like where we are now, you know, like in this sort of area. The air's different, the energy's different, the people, not saying obviously people in London aren't nice, but you know, it's like everyone's got something to do, you're in my way, move. You know, here people actually want to have a conversation with you, see how you're doing, you know, it's just totally different, and it's kind of shaped me into who I am today, which I'm very grateful of. But at the time it did kind of hurt the way it kind of all went down, and I didn't have the opportunity to say goodbye to the fans, and I think I was stuck on like 148 games. It'd been nice to get.
Were you there 9 years or something?
Well, professionally, yeah, but then obviously I was there in like the academy since I was like 12. Like, because Colin spotted me when I was, I think, 12, 13, but they didn't have an academy for that age group. But obviously he didn't want me to fall by the wayside, so he was just like, I'm just going to chuck you in with the under-16s. So I was there for ages, Jim, like really, really long time. So it would have been nice to get like 150 appearances and say goodbye to the fans. Yeah. But you know, it's just the way it is, and it's all meant to be. Like the way it went down was the exact way it was supposed to be, you know. And I'm just grateful to be. You look at our current rugby situation at the moment, I'm just grateful to be in a situation where it's a good club. You know, Steve Lansdowne, great owner, great fans, great city. You know, I'm very fortunate and I'm very lucky. So I can't complain, you know. I remember watching the second test with Simon Shaw. Was it? Yeah, mate, his interview after. Like, you know. That's the Lions. Yeah, that's what it's about. And it was just like, you could see how much it meant. And I was like, I'm going to play for the Lions. I was like, I have to. And then there's like a lay-by just by the training centre. So I drove there and I called my mentor at Save Your World. Man, I just broke down crying. I think a lot of it was embarrassment as well, though, when I look back on it, because it is quite embarrassing. Like, you kind of, I think my odds were like 1 to 5 on to make the squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you are.
And it was like, your ego takes a big hit, you know.
Right, the interview that went viral.
Yeah.
Around the Lions. Yeah. And you toured in 2017, so you know what it means.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
The final 2019, we've gone through that. You getting knocked out. Did you look at the calendar and think, I'm desperate to be on that tour?
Yeah.
And when it didn't happen initially, that's
well, obviously you kind of look at things and you're like, okay, cool. You know, I want to be involved in X, Y, and Z, and it's like, for me, the South Africa tour was like special. They're all special, but I remember my first kind of real experience of the Lions was watching their tour in 2009 to South Africa. Was it 2009?
Yeah.
Because the one before, I think it was 2005. I don't know. I didn't really know much about rugby at that time, but it didn't feel. I don't know. I think Clive Wilbur took a massive squad, didn't he? And it wasn't good watching. I remember getting up in the morning and watching it, and I wasn't very. If I'm being honest, I wasn't really inspired. It was quite tough to watch, you know. I mean, I think who's our best player? Ryan Jones, I think he had a good tour. Shane Williams, was he on the tour? He had a good tour. Right. So by that 2009, I remember watching it and I would be like screaming. I would be there watching like the first test, Beast v Vickers, and I was like, Jesus Christ, you know, I think Beast was just coming on the scene. They had like Forey in the centres, De Villiers, like their team was ridiculous. Mornay staying at 10, Peterson out wide. And then I remember watching Habana. I remember watching the second test with Simon Shaw. Was it? Yeah, mate. His interview after. Yeah. Like, you know,
that's the Lions.
Yeah, that's what it's about. And it was just like, you could see how much it meant. And I was like, I'm going to play for the Lions. I was like, I have to play for the Lions. And it was like, obviously, got that experience and that reference point from 2017 when I was a bolter. And obviously, leading up to the 2021, I was a lot more established. I'd played in big games. I'd started big games. Remember, at that point, I never even started a game like for England. I was still kind of on the bench for Quinns at times as well, you know? So it was like, what is going on here, you know?
Well, maybe give us a snapshot then of that 2017, because that will lead us into the emotion. And actually, the people watching this, the romance is still there with the Lions. What was that 2017 tour like? And it probably made it harder in 2021.
Unbelievable. And it was such a good experience for me because I had no expectations. Like, mate, a year before, I wasn't even starting for Quinns. Like, I was just getting like 20 minutes off the bench, and now I kind of, in the England squad, like getting 20 minutes off the bench, like doing my thing, getting some good carries.
Well, you did smoke Etzebeth.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah, no, I was just doing, I was feeling good, you know? Kind of breaking into, like, being a starter for Quinns as well, towards the back end of the season. So I never really thought I'd be in a Lions squad because I wasn't starting, you know, for England. I was just doing little cameos off the bench. And then I remember, I'll never forget, we had a team meeting at Quinns, and like, I just like didn't really think much of it. To be honest, I was just hoping like Danny, Brownie, Robbo, Marla, Jamie Roberts, those guys. I was like, man, I hope those guys get in, you know, because obviously they're seasoned pros. I've just kind of burst onto the scene and like haven't really done much. And like my phone, Jim, was going mental. So I was like, okay, either I'm in some serious trouble, like something bad, like
something twig.
Yeah, I was like, either I'm in serious trouble or I've got in the Lions. And then I checked my phone after. Cool. I checked my phone after the meeting. Adam Jones came up to me, gave me a massive hug. It was so emotional. Marl obviously got in, so me and him had a moment. But it was tough because Danny didn't get in, Brownie didn't get in, Jamie Roberts, Robbo. Mate, Robbo had a great Six Nations. Those guys played really well. And it was a bittersweet moment for me because obviously those guys, week in, week out, Premiership, internationals, autumn series, tours, you know, like seasoned pros, like regarded as some of the best. And it was like me, I've just kind of came on the scene and everything's kind of fallen into place. But fair play to them, they're not just top class rugby players, they're good blokes. They supported me. They were like, mate, don't, you know, because they could kind of see, I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, especially at that point in my life. And I felt kind of guilty, you know? But for me, that tour was amazing because I had no expectations. I was there. It was a kind of like, I was speaking to you about my time with Adam Jones when he was at Quinns. It was kind of basically the same in that 2017 tour. I'm like, okay, these guys are the best of the best in the Northern Hemisphere. You've got guys like Rory Best, Alwyn Jones, Peter O'Mahony, guys who've been on multiple tours and have been playing at the highest level in like the front five position as well. As you know, it's hard work. What are they doing in the week? What are they doing day in and day out? Like, how are they spending their time and energy? Like, how can I learn from these guys? So I'm just there watching, you know? And I learned so much stuff off of everyone, the way they prepare, the way they relax, the conversations they're having, you know, their game day routine. And it's just like, I'm always just curious. I just wanted to try things if it works for me, if it doesn't, you know? And it was just like an unbelievable experience. Again, I just thought obviously I'll play like midweek and stuff, but for me to be in a position where I played 3 tests, I was like, man, this life is good, you know? And looking back on it now, it was a massive blessing, but it kind of was a bit detrimental for me because everything just happened so quickly. It was like in 1 year I'd played for England, got on the Lions tour, played 3 tests, and I've had like 10 caps for England. I was like, I'm the man.
Easy.
Yeah, and then I think Eddie kind of saw that. And it was like, mate, you're not in the squad, mate, you know? And it was like, I was like, oh no. And it was like, oh, I need to fix up, you know? I'm just getting started. You know, you can't rest on your laurels. Like, you know what it's like in sport. It doesn't matter what you've done last week. It's all about what you're doing. What have you done for me lately?
And then the 2021 then, so on that moment, was there an expectation that you thought you were going to go again? I mean, there was a lot of emotion in that interview that went viral and got man of the match.
I wouldn't say expectation, but it's like, okay, I've been around the block now, proven, played in big games, kind of the anger was kind of behind me in terms of that perception. It was like I was someone who's been seen as like reliable. And I was like, well, I've got a good chance here. And then there's like a lay-by just by the training centre. So I drove there and I called my mentor at Save Your World. Man, I just broke down crying. I think a lot of it was embarrassment as well, though, when I look back on it, because it is quite embarrassing. Like, you were kind of, I think my odds were like 1 to 5 on to make the squad.
I know
you know what I mean?
No, you are.
And it was like,
that,
your ego takes a big hit, you know. But again, it was just the way it was meant to play out. Unfortunately for Andrew Porter, because you know he's a phenomenal player, and you never want to wish injury on anyone. he got injured, and I was kind of like the next guy in line. But even then, I was like, this isn't real. I thought someone was winding me up, because I've got Gats's number, but I think he must have changed his number all the time. So I was like, this is a wind-up kind of thing, you know. But he was like, no, I want to call you up, and I kind of, to be honest, I spoke to Eddie first. I said to Eddie, like, you know, because we had big plans that summer in terms of playing for, I think we had Canada, USA, and I was like, in conversations with him, how are we going to run the camp, like what he wanted from me, because obviously I was disappointed not being there, but how did he want me to, because there was a lot of impressionable young players coming through, and that was a big, in terms of the evolution of the England team, I was like fully committed to that now, you know, and obviously when that came, I was like, Eddie, like, you cool with me going on the line store? And he was like, mate, I'll back you. Whatever you want to do, Six, mate, just I can do it.
Oh,
you
good,
know,
yeah,
like,
of course, yeah.
Good, you know, and it was like, because I don't want to. It's a weird one again, kind of feeling a bit guilty again. You know, I don't really. I try not to try. I'm a very loyal guy. You know, if you got my back, I got your back. Death do us part. You know, and it's like I don't want to. Like let anyone down that's ever kind of had my back, you know. So
and Gats have been horrible to you.
Yeah, but like, you kind of see through all that sort of stuff. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like the guy didn't pick me. Well, the guy picked me in 2017. I didn't play any games, really, and then he didn't pick me in 2021. But then he did pick me, and then he played me in the free test. So it's like I can't.
It's crazy.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like I can't really hold a grudge against him, because he's like effectively, I think played like over 10 times for the Lions, and it's like he's. At the end of the day, picking me, you know? So at the time, obviously, the emotional time bomb stuff was like, what the hell, you know? Because I thought we'd get on, like, do you know what I mean? But he's just a puppet master, just playing the game.
Of course.
And then life's a game, so, and if you don't play, you lose by default. And, you know, I ended up losing that day, but I'm winning now, you know? Look, 2 magpies.
On cue, 2 magpies, on cue. Right, Sinks, a lot's happened, we've gone through it.
Yeah, we've gone deep, man.
We have, which it's been class. Thank you very much.
No,
what does the future look like? So you're at Bristol, you seem happy, you seem content, good headspace.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
29.
Oh, you've got not even in your prime.
Yeah, aging like a fine wine, they say.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And with the experience you've had, a lot's happened as well as a young man. So where are you now, and what does the future look like for you, Bristol, England, all that stuff, for your appetite of evolution?
Obviously, we can never predict the future, but for me, it's all about keeping the main thing the main thing. The main thing is obviously being the best possible rugby player I can be, and being regarded, I guess, as one of the best in the world in my position. That's where I want to get to. And that's where I want to consistently do week in and week out, is putting them performances for Bristol to eventually, touch wood, get selected for your country, and then you see what happens there. In terms of like me being at Bristol and like me being happy, unbelievable. Like I love it here. Like you've kind of had a little taste of it, but they love rugby. Like they literally, Jim, they crave it, mate. But like it feels like home, you know. And you know the club's been very loyal to me, and I want to repay that loyalty and that faith, and hopefully be here for a while. But as you know, you kind of see what happens. But for me, I think it's getting the balance right. So with my online platform, the Recusance, like that feeds my rugby, and my rugby feeds that. It's like that's my platform. So the more successful I am doing on the rugby field, the more attention that gets. And obviously, for me, that's what I want to kind of transition in to after rugby. And
tell us a bit more about that platform then, for people that haven't seen it. This is your moment.
This is my moment. This is my moment. So basically, I've got an online platform called the Recusance, which is all about giving back to the next generation coming through. So you've got 3 categories. You've got will, intellect, and physicality. Will is basically, I will give you an opportunity. So the first episode got released a few weeks ago, and it was pretty cool. I surprised this kid, Elijah. Mate, he is massive. Genuinely, he's a big guy, and he's got like a bigger beard than me, and he's like 15, 16. I was like, what is going on? And I took a coaching session for him and his school, his friends at school and the rugby team. And he was struggling in terms of dealing with anger and like how to use that energy. And because you know what it's like when you're a young man and you're growing up and you haven't got a father figure around who's consistent, you know, you're going to make mistakes. And it was like, I can help him because I've been through that. Did you see what I'm saying? It's like I can give back in that way. So that was really cool. And I've got 12 more episodes to do. The next one is going to be cool as well. I've got a pretty talented kid and got some really big opportunities available. Intellect is just totally 10-minute animated podcasts. touching on all subjects that relate to the younger generation. So the last one that got released was anger.
I saw
and
that.
yeah, and it's
done in a Gen Z. Is Gen Z the right word?
Yeah.
So all this kind of animated.
But it's just like everyone kind of. I know you've been talking about the Big Gym podcast. Well, I got my own podcast as well. But it's like if you're kind of a teenager, it's like, you know, your attention span's not great anyway. So the animation kind of hopefully keeps them engaged. And it's got some really, really cool stuff in there with my mentor from Save Your World. And it's like these lessons that I've learned over the years and how to deal with my anger. It's like, why would I not want to give that back? Like that one episode will be on YouTube forever. You know, long before me and you leave this earth, like that will be on there. And it's like that can help however many kids, because everyone's, look at the world we live in today. You know, there's a lot to be angry about. So it's like I wanted to try and give back in a little I can, but I feel like along with my rugby and that those things combined together, I think it's gonna be pretty cool in the next few years, you know. And the last category is just physicality, and it's just a few workout videos if you're a kid and you want to go to the gym and you don't know what to do. Like I remember when I first started lifting weights, I got taught by, he was named the godfather of weightlifting in England, Keith Morgan. He was like, honestly, the GOAT of weightlifting. And he taught me everything, but it's like not many people are going to have that opportunity. So it's like I'm just kind of, it's a good opportunity for me to get another side of my personality out there. But it's like, if you're a kid, you want to go to the gym, here's a few workout ideas, try them if you want. If you don't, you don't, you know? It's just like in my kind of way in giving back to the next generation, and something that I've always wanted to do. I always want to help people. I always want to, you know, be a role model. You know, that's what I want to do. I want kids to look up to me and see that's the right way to do it. And it's like, I'm not perfect. Like I make a lot of mistakes, like we spoke about 2 weeks ago. Hold my hand up. You know, you make mistakes, but doesn't mean I go into my shell and cower. It means I come out, I hold my hands up and I come out fighting the right way, you know? So, you know, the future looks bright, but the main thing is the rugby, you know, and that's, I'm never going to get that twisted, as they say. You know, rugby's always going to be the main thing, but it's nice to have something outside of it where I can put all my energy into, which feeds into my rugby as well. You know, like if I'm doing an interview with you today and I feel good afterwards, I put that into my training later, I put that into my recovery later, I put that into my rest. You know, you need energy to rest. So everything in my life kind of aligns with me being the best possible rugby player and the best possible person I can be. Because as you know, it doesn't last forever.
Well, Sinks.
Jim.
Rugby Roots, mate. We've got not to the root of it, but we've learned a lot about your
We came
past.
close, mate. We came close. We got there, man.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time,
that was
brother.
class.
No,
I really
wicked,
appreciate
man.
that, mate.
Thanks, Jim.
Loved
Appreciate it, man.
Keep doing your thing,
Wicked.
and I'm sure the listeners and viewers and stuff will be following you
Yeah.
from here on in.
Yeah, man. Definitely.